Did you know you can project sewing patterns directly onto fabric using an old projector and start cutting right away? Yes, it's true, and I'm going to tell you all about my setup today. But first, hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. You'll find videos about my journey learning to sew, mostly by thrifting and upcycling, making old things new again while saving money, and just being really stylish. Today I want to talk to you about the coolest gadget I've added to my sewing room, an old projector, because they can project patterns directly onto your cutting mat and fabric, and you can start cutting right away. If you're anything like me, just felt like 25% of my project time was spent cutting and taping, but I would have preferred to spend my time on the part I enjoy the most, which is thrifting for fun fabrics and actually sewing. I ended up getting this Epson Powerlite 580 Ultra Short Throw XGA projector used on eBay for only $80, which is a pretty sweet deal because new they can be in the thousands. An ultra short throw in a nutshell just means it can project from like a really short close distance. Mine does less than about a foot or so. And I chose the 580 model because according to research I found on projectorsewing.com, any model 470 and above will have HDMI ports. Older models have VGA, which is just an outdated connection. This particular one was also advertised as having less than 500 lamp hours, which is on the lower side and a good thing. I see these projector bulbs can last anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 hours, and when the lamp goes, they can be expensive to replace. So my setup, this is it. You can see I have it here propped up on a few books because it does need some height to make the image larger, but can project from just like a foot or so away. How does it work? To get it to project a pattern, you plug in the projector into a power source and then connect the projector to your computer with an HDMI cable. And then you turn the projector on and it shows what I'm looking at on my computer screen. But before you just pull up any old screen with a pattern on it, you do need to calibrate your projector. That just means making sure you're displaying the correct dimensions on your cutting surface. To do that, I just went to an awesome free open source web app called patternprojector.com made by Courtney Pattison, a software developer who happens to be a sewist, which I love, and you just click start calibrating. You'll type in a size to calibrate.
I just use 17 by 33 inches since that's roughly what's visible on my cutting mat.
But just because I use those dimensions doesn't limit me to that exact cutting space. If that makes sense, things projected outside that area will still show up. It just gives the computer something to reference. Oh, and you can also do this in centimeters. So then I drag the corners on the computer to match the dimensions on my cutting mat. And if all the lines match up, that means my pattern size will be accurate when displayed. And just to note, if you moved your projector to a different spot with a different height, even if it got bumped, you might want to recalibrate just to be safe. So once that's done, I'll click project. It'll take me to this screen where I can click open PDF and I'll find my digital pattern that I saved to my computer. Now, if this pattern were designed for a projector, I could just start cutting right away, but because it's not, I do need to make a few adjustments to the PDFs here. So let me just go ahead and do that.
The pattern I'm showing today is a free one I got from fabricstore.com of a cute chore jacket. I haven't made it yet, but want to give it a try using some denim fabric I got at the thrift store recently. So this pattern projector site lets you select the pattern size you want to sew, and once you do that, it'll show only measurements for that size. So I checked the box for the size that I wanted, then I selected the number of columns and rows of the pattern by referencing this little diagram in the instructions. To make sure I'm not projecting anything but the pattern itself, like the stuff on the first few pages, I enter the page range that I want to project. And now that it's just showing the pattern, I double check that everything looks roughly lined up as it should be. And now I just have one last adjustment. Because this pattern was designed to be printed, there are going to be these little gaps around the edges. To close those, I just press the plus button next to where it says horizontal and vertical until all the gaps are closed. And like I said, if your pattern is already designed for a projector or has that A0 option, you wouldn't need to make these adjustments. Then just like that, you have a projected pattern at the perfect scale and you're ready to start cutting.
So to cut, I need to make sure my fabric is like really flat, ironed nicely, otherwise you'll see the projected lines get wavy. You might also want to use some weights to hold your fabric in place while cutting. And instead of cutting it all, you could just trace the projected lines with a fabric marker and cut after. There are a few other options depending on your needs and budget. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here since I haven't tried them all myself yet, but what I know from my research is that a couple of the other options include short throw projectors and mini projectors where the setup is more mounted overhead. The prices of those can vary, with the mini projectors as cheap as like 40 bucks. Then there's Ditto, a pattern projector and pattern subscription specifically made and marketed to sewists. It's made by Joanne and Singer. It's on the pricier side. It started out being $799, but somehow $299 right now, but you do have to pay for a subscription to access its patterns and to even upload your own. Despite the price, I am intrigued by their claim that you can put your own measurements into their system and customize patterns to your size. That sounds really cool, but I'm really happy with the choice I made. I love that I can save a ton of time, and I may one day consider a more overhead setup to save this table space. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for my next video showing how I made something using this setup here. If you found this video helpful in any way, please like and subscribe to my channel. It helps people find my videos. And if you have your own sewing projector setup at home, I'd love to hear about it. Drop me a comment below. If you have questions, I will happily try to answer them or direct you to a resource that I know of. But I'm excited to use this setup in my coming videos. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!